Thank you all for joining us. I'm Kara Macri, the Director of Preservation Services at Historic Albany Foundation, and we are over here at the Steam Garden on Central Avenue getting all set up for Saturday's Restoration Faire. So this is the third year that Historic Albany has done our Restoration Faire, and it's changed a bit every year. We were in person the first year, and then obviously for COVID, we were totally virtual. And this year we figured, why not shake things up? We'll just do a hybrid event this year to kind of merge the two together. So we're going to be here at the Steam Garden one Saturday a month from May through August to talk about all the different stages of restoration, some of the pitfalls, some of the kind of tricks of the trade, things to know. And then we're going to have lots of resources, people to talk to, ask your questions, because that's the biggest thing. You always come up with questions, and who do you ask these questions to? So we're bringing the experts to you, physically and virtually. So we'll be here at the Steam Garden this Saturday from 1 to 3. And if you're unable to make it, not interested in going to events in person yet, we've got you covered. We're going to be streaming everything live on our Facebook page, so you'll be able to join us then. So to kick everything off, we're going to start with Albany County, who has kindly agreed to talk about some of their wonderful foreclosure prevention programs. Since May, we're focusing on vacancy and foreclosure prevention. We know a lot of people are struggling out there, and we figured this was a great way to start. So thank you, Mike and Dave, for joining us.
Oh, it's our pleasure for being here. Thanks for having us. Obviously, the county is heavily involved in both foreclosure as well as foreclosure prevention, interestingly enough. So we're kind of on both sides of the conversation. So would you like us to start? I actually want to talk about one program after kind of talking about prevention that is actually a foreclosure program that will speed up the process for certain problem buildings. But I think it's important to discuss, just given your organization's thrust, just because it is new. And so I think that we want to kind of start getting the word out about it. But, you know, Dave Reilly, who's our Commissioner of Management and Budget, and is intimately involved in the foreclosure process, especially on the financial side with me, is going to say a few words about one of the currently functioning programs that we have going on.
Great. Yep. Sounds good to us.
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. So there was a program that was signed into state law right around the end of January. It was actually January 30th. The governor updated the real property law and made a provision where municipalities could opt in, and this is specifically due to COVID. Municipalities could opt in and grant up to a 120-day window interest-free for people to pay their taxes late. Specifically, the city of Albany is the only municipality in Albany County that opted in. But we just wanted to kind of put it out there. It was a plan. Initially, people could set up a payment plan. You know, they pay one payment a month so they could chip away at it, no interest or penalties, pay the same amount over a little bit more time to give them some breathing room. That program is still in play through the end of this month. And if anyone listening has paid their taxes in the city of Albany a little bit late and paid an interest charge, there's actually a process through the city treasurer's office to get that interest and penalty back. So if they already had paid, or if they're looking at their tax bill going, you know, I could probably pay it right now, but that interest and penalties kind of, you know, that's kind of pushing it over the edge, contact the city. You have until the end of the month to get in there, and there will be no interest and penalties as long as the full amount is paid by the end of this month.
So they should contact the assessor's office directly?
I would say actually to go to the treasurer's office. Mr. Shanafar was the one that kind of pushed for the city to opt in. He worked with one of the county legislators that represents, I believe, Center Square. And the two of them kind of coordinated to have the city be a part of this program. Because as I said, the municipalities had to opt in individually. We passed legislation on our side that would allow any of them to opt in. But as you know, as it played out, the city was the only one that did opt in. So just want to make sure people were aware of that. I don't know how well it was publicized, but there may be some people that helps out a little bit. And I know it's a little late in the program, but every little bit helps with everything we're all going through right now.
Absolutely. And so the phone number for the treasurer's office, if you want to give them a call about that, is 518-434-5036 if you're calling about the interest there on your tax bill that you may have paid. So we'll also put things in the comment section if there's email addresses, websites, phone numbers, things like that. That way people can easily access this information.
So kind of to piggyback off of what Dave was mentioning, so that is a program that is specific to what we would call, delinquencies as a result of COVID. And the program is specific to delinquencies that have come about as a result of COVID. But just so everybody's aware, the county still is running all of its other programs specific to, I guess we'll call them foreclosure prevention. So anyone who is maintaining a delinquency on their property, there is a moratorium on foreclosure right now in general because of the eviction moratorium. So because the county is required to, we can only foreclose on lien years at a time, we can't foreclose because that would force us to evict. So the eviction moratorium has functionally put the foreclosure process on hold. Now, of course, that will likely, well, not likely, it will eventually, change. But right now, I think there was just an extension, as a matter of fact. So we don't anticipate that changing for at least several months. So with that in mind, anyone who has a delinquency, now whether that delinquency originated during COVID or prior is of little consequence for our programs, except for the one Dave was just mentioning. Dave was just mentioning one that is specific to the interest accrued due to a delinquency because of COVID. However, if you have a delinquency that goes back, I believe right now would be 2 years, and because of the moratorium, perhaps even a little bit longer, you can set up a payment plan. Work with the county to come in, set up a manageable payment plan that allows you to pay down your delinquency on the property and prevent the foreclosure. Now, there's another resource that certainly isn't specific to foreclosure, but because in the city of Albany we have so much foreclosure that is landlords on landlords, foreclosing on landlords that impacts tenants, I think we really need to begin talking about, from a foreclosure prevention perspective, the rental assistance program that was just announced. So this is not a foreclosure prevention program, but because the resources are specific to landlords, those landlords that have had tenants not pay their rent. The complication is the program is going to be run through the state. The state is going to set up a electronic system that will receive applications. It will assess the application, determine eligibility, and all that. It'll do all that management. Now, on the county side, we are in charge of community engagement and outreach. So we will be doing that through a couple different community organizations, certainly working with some landlord groups to kind of get the word out. The program is specific to Albany County, $9 million. And then once we spend down that $9 million, because we are working with the state through their system, we are being told that we will then have access to the, I think it's 850 plus $1 million state pot that was awarded to the state, because the program was managed by U.S. Treasury in this way. Counties over $200,000 got a direct allotment, as well as some municipalities that were over that threshold. And then everyone else just was a larger pot that went to the state. So we got a direct allotment, which we will then contribute. It will still be specific to Albany County, so we'll have a spend down, and then we will hopefully bump over to the larger pot of money to expand the resources available to folks within Albany County. Like I said before, this is not a specific foreclosure prevention program, but we know, just because of correspondence into the county from landlords, that there are a lot of folks out there who are on tough times, and that's totally understandable, given the amount of economic impact that COVID has had on the landscape. So the program will require, this is where things are going to get interesting, The program is going to require cooperation between tenants and landlords, because the landlords are going to need some information from tenants to submit to the state to qualify for a reimbursement for lost rents. But there is a large pot of money here, between the state amount as well as the county amount that is going to be available to folks within the county. And obviously, if you're a landlord, your taxes are being paid through your rent revenues, and if you're a tenant, you are paying taxes through your rent. So it's all connected, and this will be, we assume, a resource that landlords who have potentially gone delinquent will use to kind of obviously prevent getting into a tax foreclosure issue. So that's another big, important program that will hopefully be up and running. Again, this one's being run through the state, so it's not entirely within our own control, but we're being told by the end of the month, beginning of June, that the system will be up and running to begin taking on applications. And at that point, the flow of reimbursement or award will come from the state, and the county will certainly be playing the supporting role in making sure that the word is out there about the program itself. So those are that's the kind of the lay of the land right now, related to the resources we have specific to tax foreclosure prevention. I don't know if you have any other questions about
Mike, can I just put a little bit extra on top of the program you were just
Yes,
talking
absolutely.
about?
Yeah, please do.
So as Mike said, this is basically it's always phrased as the landlord or the tenant relief program. This has another piece of it too, where it can also be used to pay back utility bills. If the tenant can show, negative economic impact due to the COVID pandemic, it can be for up to a year of back rent or up to a year of back utility bills can be covered by this program. So just wanted to throw out there that it was also for the utility bills if someone applied or someone qualified.
Now, Mike, you said Albany County is a bit more outreach. So will landlords be applying directly through the state? Will there be almost like an have portal for them to go through? Have they
Yeah.
given you any info
So
when that rolls out?
yeah, so we have been, anybody who's contacted us about the program, landlord or tenant, has been put into a database to be notified when and if we get more information about the program. But yeah, the electronic system that I reference is really, frankly, much better termed as, exactly as you said, an online portal, and it will be state-based. So they will have to go through that state portal. So originally we didn't know it was going to go this way. So that's why we were building our own database of contacts, assuming that we were going to have to do outreach to individuals to begin onboarding or enrolling them, into the program. But that appears to not be the case now. And frankly, it's probably for the best, just given the larger pot of money that the state was awarded. And there are obviously much more significant capabilities from a technical perspective to stand something up this quickly. And, the pandemic has shown that they've had to stand up a few electronic systems very rapidly. So this is really more of the same for them, but it will be a centralized system, but we will be carrying their water in the county. So I think right now, United Tenants Legal Aid we'll be working with, and then we're also going to kind of coordinate with some landlord groups as well to kind of spread the word, even though, there's always going to be someone who's unaware of the program, so that we run into that all the time. So
To get everybody.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone wants to join your, database of people to be notified about this, who should they contact?
Yep, they can contact ESS. They can contact our office as well. It's all going to funnel into the same pot. I will follow up. I think there might actually be a specific email related to the rental assistance program. I don't know it off the top of my head. I apologize. I wasn't prepared with that.
We can always post that in the comments and things later as stuff like comes up. And then if people wanted to reach out about the payment plans and things like that, which department, how should they reach out?
Yep, that would be a direct reach out to our Department of Finance, Division of Finance, which is a division within Management and Budget under Dave Reilly. So.
Okay. and we'll post the phone numbers and
Yep, all that information, that contact is right on our website. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. We'll include the link then.
So the other program that we kind of wanted to just mention to folks, and isn't really in the it's foreclosure involved, but I guess it's using foreclosure for a constructive purpose, is a new bill that was sponsored and shepherded through the Assembly and the Senate. On the Assembly side, it was our local Assembly member McDonald who helped out immensely, related to voluntary abandonment of properties. So this allows local code enforcement to get to categorize certain problem properties that are vacant and abandoned, and move them up in the foreclosure cycle. Obviously, this is important for your organization because properties that are aging have a tendency to degrade rather rapidly should there be a roof or window issue.
Roof leaks that need attending to.
That's right. So now we've already coordinated all this. The city of Albany is fantastic. They've passed their authorizing legislation. We've passed ours. So the reason I think it's important is because we don't like to foreclose on property. We try to give, as you know, folks as much resources and time to satisfy their delinquency as possible. But in this particular case, it's the exact opposite. If someone goes delinquent and we have that leverage, we don't want to wait those 4 years, which is in place to help folks, because given the number, I think it's like 30,000 or 3,000 delinquent tax bills roll over, and then we end up foreclosing on like 150 because we want that number to be low. So the local code enforcement entities throughout Albany County now have the ability to classify certain properties as vacant and abandoned, and set up their own processes for assessment of that categorization, and then certify that list to the county to move up in the foreclosure process. So this is going to be a huge resource for us. It's another tool in the tool belt, so to speak, to fight blight and decay. And so we're very much in the early stages of this. And so you folks, given your good work and your knowledge of the landscape of property in the city, and obviously this is going to affect the city more than any other municipality in the county, we'll be able to kind of, when you're looking at properties, know, well, this property has been vacant and abandoned for a year, for 2 years. We've even in the past, and Dave knows this as well as I do, had folks come to us and say, I don't want this property anymore. Will you take it from us? And I'm like, you're only delinquent for a year. I can't just take the property from you because I want to. There's legal protections for that sort of thing. Not to mention, frankly, the county just isn't in the business of property management, nor do we want to be. So, I think that's going to be this, and the reason that I think it's categorically different from the other programs we're talking about is that this will never be used for properties that are occupied. So the property has to be vacant, has to be abandoned. For the city of Albany, everybody knows they have a vacant building registry. It will likely need to be on that list. The folks in building regular compliance, as well as Sam Wells, do a great job with that work. We coordinate very closely with them. They're good partners. But it's going to be a major thing here, and we're still very early on in the process. We don't even have a list yet of buildings in this condition. That's how early on in the process we are. But we do want to make everybody aware of its existence because it is going to be, we hope, a good resource to kind of prevent that long-term decay that I know a lot of folks have complained about, and rightfully so, over the years. And so hopefully it's something that'll really help us kind of help those struggling neighborhoods moving forward. So I wanted to make folks aware of that new resource and let them know that we'll hopefully be putting it in place here in the next year or so, once we're able to get a good list of properties that we can categorize in that way.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing. It sounds like a big step in the right direction towards tackling some of this vacancy issue we have going on. So excellent. Well, thank you guys both for joining us on a busy Wednesday. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll be reposting things again. You'll see more information coming throughout the month. And we'll be seeing Legal Aid Society, United Tenant, and a few of our other local partners on Saturday here at the Steam Garden. So we'll see you in person or virtually. And thank you again for joining us.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.